So we'll just get started with section 7.2, service and market assessment reporting. Okay, so just as a definition, the the service and market assessment reporting is designed to assess transit service and performance in markets relative to transit network features and geographies for baseline conditions or alternative networks. And so there's several levels of assessment reporting. First would be kind of at the transit feature level. So that would be at the route level, and then stop level reporting. And then we also have mobility area reporting and map layer reporting. So all of these have different context and features that are available for them. But all of them share the same basic report types. So that would include the service summary here, observed performance summary, estimated performance summary, market analysis for socioeconomic land use. So some of those same reports that we've seen before, except this time we're going to do them at different levels of geography. So as an example, the map layer assessment tool, where you're seeing mobility on demand trip activity. So that's this example. So what we're showing is the Lynx transit system, where their NeighborLink residential land use weekday person trips. So their NeighborLink is their mobility on demand um, service. So there's zones, right? So in our report, we have each zone that they have, and they're basically kind of route names, 801, 804, 822, et cetera. Um, and what we're doing is we're, instead of showing these maybe as a single record where we saw with the mobility areas, we're creating a report from, in this case, a map layer that has all of their NeighborLink zones in it. And we're able to summarize all of the land use activity in it. So the idea here is that for 822 Oviedo NeighborLink, their person trips, the total person trips within that zone are 94,890. For this Tupperware, Sunrail, and Valencia College, it's 315,666. So, it's a much higher total. And also the trips per acre is also kind of relevant here, where you have 33.1 person trips per acre as opposed to 19.7 for this NeighborLink. So the idea is that you're giving a density of trip making, right? A production level on a scaled by acre or density, right? So this gives you a really good assessment, especially if you're looking at this from a trip potential standpoint to assess mobility on demand in this case, but it can be any geography, um, for the trip potential, right? Using their trip generation rates and applying it to all of those NeighborLink zones. And of course, this could be what's existing or what's proposed. So it's really what you put into it that you can assess here. And of course, all the data links, just like we looked at before, where this 94,000, this blue data link will link right to the map of the Valencia, Tupperware Sunrail Valencia, or whatever it is we have selected. So just a great way to roll up information at the route, stop, mobility area, or map layer level. Okay, so some of the options. So this is the route market assessment tool. So route market assessment. So create route level socioeconomic and land use market summaries. So you can see you launch this and you have the ability to do socioeconomic or land use. You have the service period, which is weekday, Saturday, Sunday, or all service periods. So if you wanted to see just Sunday markets for your routes, then you could do that. So whatever's in service on Sunday or in service on Saturday, that's where you would select the service period. Of course, the Title VI policy defines the default walk access distance, but you can change it and then walk access from stops or segments. Now, this summarized combined total What that will do is create a total at the bottom of the report that is the non-double counted total of all the combined areas for the input. So if you have 10 routes and you're going to have a buffer around all the routes of a quarter of a mile, some of those buffers may overlap and probably several of them would overlap. And the point is here is that you don't count that overlap, what's in the overlapped area twice. You just count it once. So it's like a combined area rather than each individual one. Okay, and then the other option is the route market assessment for land use. And basically you select the land use summary, service periods, the same kind of setup, and get the non-double counted. So it's really just a very easy 5-step process to create this report. And once again, this route market assessment, it shows the route here in the left column, and we'll give you all the variables in the default profile, the same setup we had before with our reporting, where we show the demographic counts. We have profiles for Title VI, etc. Except this time we're showing a selected set of routes or all routes in the system. Whatever you interact with TBEST to select, that is what will be in the report. And the same with the land use market assessment, where we're dealing with the routes as the summary of the items for the input. And in this case, we're summarizing by weekday person trips. So let's just annotate this, weekday person trips. You can see the time period is set to weekday. We can change this to just AM peak person trips or PM peak or Saturday or Sunday. So when you edit this, you change it. When the field is person trips, then it will switch all of your values to that time period. You also can summarize, just like we did in the land use market analysis, by residential, commercial, industrial, schools. So you have those profiles available to you here to just show those variables. The default profile, as we mentioned before, has a combination of land use types that are most common and probably the most relevant for transit market assessment. I mentioned this before, variable density for mobility on demand, trip activity density. Just a very valuable parameter here and variable that allows you to assess, in this case, routes for trip potential. And we had another question about market propensity, like latent demand. And while this isn't necessarily demographic based, certainly it's land use based, that some land uses may have more propensity for transit, et cetera. And that might be a good way of diving into some of those variables as well. Okay. Okay. So just looking at the summary fields, we mentioned this, the summary field here, the time period, person trips only. So we've kind of touched on this, person trips being IT, trip generation, and other methods that are detailed in the spreadsheet that we showed yesterday. Okay, so another market assessment reporting type is mobility area. And so this one is where you would create a mobility area or utilize existing mobility areas that you have stored. So just like you have in your Gatorville transit system, you have several mobility area group folders where you have mobility areas in them, including mobility on demand. You can summarize all of those, whatever you would select in a report. So to open the mobility on demand, mobility area reporting, go to reports, mobility area reporting. You'll be asked to select the report type. And so for mobility area assessment, you can select from all 5 different report types. Whereas with the route level, it's really just socioeconomic and land use. But for mobility area, we get all of the report types for service and performance and different market types. So in this case, we select fixed route service as the report type. So I'll just highlight that. Here's our fixed route service report type. We selected three neighbor links as an input, 6, 11, 12, and 13, and we hit create report here. And those three are summarized in our service reports, right? So we, instead of seeing one summarized like we saw earlier, where you can see each individual route and then the total, what we're seeing here is just the total for each of our mobility areas, our mobility and demand areas. Okay, so let's proceed. All right, so here are the different types, right? So you can result in map results. So if you click the data links in the socioeconomic summary and land use summaries, you get to these map results. The map results for service summary, observed, and estimated performance automatically appear on the main TBES map. The same as what we've seen, where it's showing you what's inside of that mobility area in terms of routes, right? Okay. And then we have map layer reporting. So basically, this allows you to assess transit service and markets within an input polygon map layer geography. So you need to group by a defined variable and all map layer polygons or interactive polygon map selection. So what does that mean? That means that I can add a layer. And in the example here, we have a local or ArcGIS Online layer. This example is showing an ArcGIS Online transportation mobility program areas in the Gainesville area. So it has about, I think, 5 or 6 different areas that have been defined. And this is just from ArcGIS Online. They're publicly available. So we just grabbed this layer from ArcGIS Online and added it to the TBES map. So we would go to open map layer reporting, open the map layer assessment. We would select a report type, socioeconomic summary. The input layer is our transportation mobility program. And here we have a group field, right? So the group field is basically the field that it's going to show up as the summary field. So like name, or in this case, zone. So anything with the same, any polygons with the same value for zone will be grouped together. So if there are 10 polygons that have zone A, then it will summarize all 10 of those polygons in one line, right? And so it's basically a group field. And then you have the map layer features, all features or selected features only. So we'll explore both of those. All right, so here is the result of our transportation mobility program area map layer service assessment. So this is the observed boardings in each of the zones. So here is our zone. So the values that came out of that map layer were A, E, D, C, B, and M, right? So we have observed boardings, observed lightings within each one of those zones, the headways, the speeds, the stops served, all of our performance metrics. And this is actually for observed ridership. So this is the actual ridership and performance in each one of these zones. And then this is the total for all of them at the bottom, non-double counted total. And of course, you can change this to weekday. So if you wanted to switch this to weekday or to annual or AM peak, you can. And this is the socioeconomic summary. So so this has zone again, and then it has population, density, et cetera, right? So same reporting type and structure, but now we're showing it for the socioeconomic in the area. So if you're thinking about this in terms of, what are the possibilities of what I can assess, and it really is just dependent on what kind of structure you have for your map layers and what layers you want to put in terms of polygons. And TBES will summarize both all of the features in it or selected features in it and show you service and markets so that your assessment can extend beyond just transit and get into external geographies and layers and mobility areas, et cetera. So it really kind of goes into a lot of detail as to where you can go with summarizing different information relative to your transit service and to the local markets. Okay, so also a new report for TBES 5, the Transit Stop Market Assessment. So this is something that folks that have been asking for quite a while, which is the ability to select stops and then summarize the markets for them. So basically, we have individually assessed socioeconomic and land use markets relative to all or selected transit stops. Define transit stop market by a buffer, which is distance only. And then we get into some unique characteristics here of using our sheds, right? So we talked about our mobility area sheds. We can integrate those shed capabilities into this assessment to say, well, whatever I have selected, or even for all routes, I want to know the walk shed, a 10-minute walk shed, or half a mile distance walk shed for every stop, or just a buffer distance, or the bike shed or drive shed or wheelchair shed. And then provide it to me in a report such as this, where I have the stop name and all of my stops, the total at the bottom for all of the markets, the person trips at each stop, the person trips per acre, whether they're single family, et cetera. So a very detailed assessment of all stops or whatever you would have, whether it's within a corridor or however you want to assess them, whatever you have selected. And then the same kind of reporting applies as we've seen in the last few assessments. So the selection method can vary. You can use the map, you can use the stop list, you can use the query tool to select them. So lots of ways to select and as inputs to this tool. Okay, so just creating a transit stop market assessment. Generally, you want to use the stop panel view mode to select just those ones that you would, or visual show in the list of stops and in the map, those that you would be visible, right? So you notice that it says the input stops. Sorry, let me illustrate that. The input stops are all visible stops. So they have to be visible in the map or selected. So those are the two items. So if you wanted to do all stops, you would select all stops visible. And without selecting any of them, you could just run for all of the stops in the system, right? Or you could make selections, as we said earlier. So yeah, so basically set it up the same way where you're selecting the report type. In this case, the assessment area is a transit stop walk shed or a 10-minute walk for all the visible stops, and then we'll summarize the non-double counted total at the end and create the report, and off we go. All right, so let's walk through some of these assessments, and hopefully y'all can walk through them with me. All right. Any questions? No. Okay, so I'm on 7.2 service and market assessment reporting. And so we're going to do a route market assessment. All right, so if not already open the spring 2025 scenario. So I'll just double click on my spring 2025 and use the routes panel, select features on the map tool to select routes which generally access the University of Florida campus. So you can see here in generally this is the University of Florida. So we can do a couple things here. We can use this selection tool. We could also define a polygon, and we can just do something like this where we're actually defining the border right here if we wanted to, right? So it's kind of up to you how you would do this. Either way is fine. This is defining it. So here's a mobility area we defined, a shape, and then we can just say, well, I want to select the routes that intersect that. So then you've selected all the routes that intersect that mobility area. So I can clear the mobility area. I have my selection. That's what I wanted. Under the reports menu on the main toolbar, select route market assessment. So reports, route market assessment. And we're going to select socioeconomic summary and select all service periods. And everything else is good. Quarter of a mile, a walk access from stops. You can see that if we selected weekday, Saturday, and Sunday, we would get just those that are in service, those route alignments that are in service for Sunday or Saturday or weekday. But we're doing all service periods. Set create report. Okay, so again, we are in our report where we have the routes that we had selected, a total of 23 routes. The total population, the combined market for all of them is 88,995, the non-double counted. Note that there is an asterisk here, and then it also shows it here, the non-double counted summary of combined report areas. So here are the number of households under 18. So we've kind of been through this report. It's the same setup. If we wanted to see for Route 21, what is the service employment distribution? We quickly pop it up. We have Route 21, Wrights Union, Cabana, 0.25 miles from stops. And here is the, the buffers around the stops. All right. So, all right, so let's just look at maybe the Title VI profile. So if you're looking at this from a Title VI perspective, here is your percent minority, and your percent low income is here as well. So again, we can generate these maps, and we also have this full report of all these for a Title VI type of summary. All right, and we'll show the demographic counts. So we switch this, and all of this changes from percentages to actual counts for each of the variables. All right, so let's close the Title VI report. And we're going to switch from socioeconomic to land use and just hit create report. Okay, have the same type of setup here where instead of showing the socioeconomic variables, we're now showing land use. This is by default weekday person trips. As I mentioned, we can switch this to different person trips. Here's the Saturday person trips and the Sunday as well. If you want to switch this to building square footage, very easy to do that. And population and dwelling units and parcel counts. So just really kind of a very easy way to summarize lots of kind of intensive data that it would be hard to otherwise summarize, if you're just doing it out of on your own or, in other tools. Okay. So one thing to note on this, if I switch to residential, note that we're showing parcel count. Let's show person trips. So I switched to person trips, and that there's a total of 80,000, and 6% of those, 6% on Route 1 are single family. So this percentage is relative to the residential person trips, not the total person trips for the entire route, around the route. So when you run in the profile mode, these percentages are relative to the total person trips for that category, residential, right? Whereas you run for the default, the total residential is 8.9% of the total person trips for the entire area. So just as a distinguishing characteristic there, when you look at the profiles, the percentages are relative to this first column. Okay. All right, so let's go to the next one, which is our mobility area service and market assessment. So with the spring 2025 opens, we can close this. And actually, let's clear the route selection as well. So we can just hit the clear route selection. So that clears our routes off, kind of zoom out to where we were. Looking good. All right, so let's switch over here. And in TBEST Explorer, right-click on the Mobility Areas Jurisdiction Group folder and select Mobility Area Reporting. All right, so we have this Jurisdictions folder. So what it's asking us to do, and it has 4 mobility areas in it. And it's asking us to right-click on Jurisdiction and go to Mobility Area Reporting. So when we right-click on a group like that, it automatically filters to just the mobility areas that are in that group. If we were to launch this from reports, mobility area reporting, it would show all of the mobility areas that we have, whether in their mobility area group here on the right. So just to keep that in mind, if you want to filter for just a particular grouping, you can do that. So let's go back to that. And we have Northwest Mobility Area, Mobility District, East Mobility District, the Downtown Redevelopment, and the City of Gainesville. And so what we want to do is show a fixed route estimated performance. So we're going to select that fixed route estimated performance and create report. Okay, so what we have here are from the TBEST estimations, our total boardings that happen within this district or each district, and the direct and transfer boardings, all of our performance measures for the weekday. And so what we also see in the map is that for the combined area for all of them, by default, it shows up. So what's good about this report is that you can select each one and it will show you that district and then filter the map to just the routes that are in that location. So here's the East Mobility District, here's the Downtown Redevelopment, here's the City of Gainesville. So you can quickly kind of switch between and show different maps. And again, you can export the data, the map data from here, and then have, this exact map come up in ArcGIS Online, right? Or in a mobile geodatabase. So another unique quality of this map is you have this open route, Northwest Mobility District detailed route report. So when I do that, this is the Northwest Mobility District, and it actually shows me the routes that are in that district, and the same report we were showing earlier with route level summaries in it. So basically, it's drilling into that total. We showed the total line in the original report, but this drills into all the routes that are in service, their percent of the system service, and each individual one, right? So we can close this, and that actually pops back up our original mobility area report. And let's go ahead and export this to Excel, and it'll just be called Spring 2025 Mobility Area Service Report. Export that out. So again, very easy to format this. All of this is here for you to analyze and use outside of TBEST. Okay. All right. All right, so we're going to close this and close our mobility area reporting and on to our next item, map layer service and market assessment. So it's asking us to open the fall 2024 scenario. And we're opening fall 2024 because we want to use the observed ridership that's in the fall 2024. So that's one of the advantages of this base read-only fall 2024 is we have the APC data in it, and we validated it. And we can always look at this ridership status. So this scenario contains valid stop level ridership. So it means that because we validated the model using this scenario and it contained the ridership, the stop level ridership, then TBEST is recognizing it as valid. Okay. All right. So let's go to the map control and add data. We can actually use the map add data here as well. We don't have to go to the map control. Either one is fine. It's the same thing. So I can do this. And so what we want to do is add data. So we're going to use ArcGIS Online to do it. So let's select ArcGIS Online as the source. A couple things to notice. I mentioned earlier yesterday where we have Service Edge Solutions, ArcGIS Online portal layers. So you can see these are different layers that we've created over the last couple of days that are existing. So if I click on them, you can see the thumbnails of what we've created over the last couple of days in this map, right? So it's kind of cool that you can then add those if you want to into this map, that layer, right? So one thing that you can do there, and any other layer that would be public to you or accessible to you within your organization would also fall in this list. All right, so we can search public ArcGIS Online layers. So we want to search for Gainesville. And just hit enter. All right, so what we're looking for is the Transportation Mobility Program Area layer. So if we scroll down, should see it here, Transportation Program Mobility Area layer. You notice, of course, that the thumbnail comes up. It gives you when it was created and who created it. So all we need to do is once we've selected it is click on Add Layer. Okay, so we can close the Add ArcGIS on layers. We just wanted that one. So what you notice is that it comes in symbolized, right? So this isn't the default symbology that you would get with a local layer. This is symbolized by the provider, right? It comes in as a feature service, and that feature service has symbols. So just note that that's how TBEST brings it in, however it's published. All right. So in the reports drop-down menu on the main TBEST toolbar, reports, we want to go to map layer reporting. All right, so we want to select the fixed route observed performance, fixed route observed performance. We're going to use our input layer is going to be this transportation mobility program layer. So the trick here is that you have to add this layer, right? You have to have a polygon layer that's an input layer or user layer that you want to use, right? So we have it here. And then we're going to get a list of the fields within that data set. So we see our zone field. So that we saw that in the example. And that's pretty much it. We're going to summarize on map feature layers for all features. And then just create report. Okay. All right. So we have our map layer we added and each of the zones that were created A through M. And, the same type of observed performance, except this time it's within this map layer, right? And so again, we can select each one of these and it will zoom to it and show us those local zones within this transportation mobility program layer. So very easily could be any layer, any kind of polygon layer that you would want to summarize. You add it to here. It could be townships. It could be counties, could be whatever it is that you want to summarize. Add it to it, and then you can quickly do this summary. Okay, so we'll just close this. All right, so the next task is actually to do this just for selected layers, selected features. So we're going to switch this to selected features only. And when we do that, we have to click this Select Map Features button, and then that gets enabled, and then we're able to come over to our layer and just click and hold and drag and select which features intersect that drag. So if we want to just click one, or if we have a couple that we want to select, we can do that. So I've just selected a couple of them, and I'll just hit create report. So here is just the C and the M zone. So we've just filtered it to just what we want. So very easy to do. And of course, you can do this for not just for fixed route performance, but for socioeconomic summary. So if I just want the socioeconomics for those two zones, very easy to summarize that. All right. So one more thing that I'll just kind of, you can use this clear map button. So that clears the selections and removes any mobility areas. So kind of a handy tool there. We had selections that we wanted to remove. And then just kind of going a little off script here in the map control, if you want to filter this layer by its fields, right? Instead of doing a selection by the using the map, you can say, I want zones that are equal to A, right? And add that and then apply it. And that will filter just to A on the map. So just kind of an easy way to filter your layer interactively using this expression. And then TBES will filter that on the map as well. And then if we clear this and apply it, then it should go back to all of it. All right. Next. So let's clear this layer off. We're going to go to map control and remove their transportation mobility layer. And we're going to open the spring 2025 scenario. So here's spring 2025. On the main toolbar, select the reports, transit, stop market assessment menu options. So do that. Reports, transit, stop market assessment. Okay, and then, oh, sorry, we're going to activate Route 28, eastbound pattern. So I'm just going to double click on that. So what I see here in my list is that I have 24 stops that are visible. So down on the active route pattern, visible 24 out of 1,912 or 1,912. So what we want to do is a socioeconomic summary for the transit stop wheelchair shed for a time of 10 minutes. And we're going to use all visible stops. So that will be 28 stops that are visible. So it will do the reporting on each one of these stops. We're going to get a wheelchair shed for each one. All right, so very quickly, we have our wheelchair sheds and 24 total. And here is the transit stop ID for each one of them, the population, each one, the population density. So all of our same socioeconomic characteristics in our default profile. And okay, so basically just export this to Excel in our transit stop socioeconomic report, get saved. And we have our, not only we have our report, our 10-minute transit stop wheelchair shed is in our header. We also have our population data source, employment data source, and our non-double counted summary of combined report areas in our data lookups for our inputs to this report. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this report, and you can close out, close this out, kind of where we want to be. All right, so I did see we had a question. So are the percentage relationships described in the detail in the user guide? It seems like it would be easy to lose track of what you're looking at in each case. Yeah, I actually I have to take a look at that and see exactly how that's described in the user guide. We just put this tool in the last month, so it's a brand new tool. So I have to take a look at that. I know I did update the user guide, but I'm not sure I specifically said the percentage relationship. So I have to double check that, Charles. Um, all right. So let's see here. Any other questions on market assessments? All right.